Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance. We guide, help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow, scale, and exit. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started the Telling It Like It Is. It is live. If you have any questions, ask away. If you're watching this on a social media platform after the fact, please put your question in there and it will get answered. I would like to thank Startup TNT for their sponsorship. The TNT Summit connects new and experienced angel investors. And to date, they have raised over $1 million, actually over $1.3 million for entrepreneurs and startups. For more information, you can click on their website in the comments section. I am excited about today's guest. It is Mike deBoer, the founder of LevellingUp. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jade. Thanks for having me here.
Well, and I guess, kind of to use that Startup TNT, that's where we met. You were pitching there, and before you know it, we're meeting for coffee.
Yes, yeah, no, that was great. I was pleased to meet you there, and it's been great to get to know you since then.
Yeah, no, we I guess in the good old days when we could have coffee, and hopefully we're going to be back there sometime soon. I'm not 100% sure when. It's out of my control, but it's been a good relationship and a good start, and here we are going to definitely learn a little bit more about leveling up. So what I'm going to do is I'll give a brief introduction about you, Mike, and then we'll get after it. So after years of seeing people struggle with inexperience and isolation caused by our technology-saturated culture, that sparked Mike's passion for changing the world one person at a time. After 20 plus years of successfully leading teams of 100 plus people, executing projects worth $250 million and participating in organizational mergers, Mike left behind his career as an industry executive, and he's now pursuing his vision to restore a culture of people helping people through leveling up. And the start of Telling It Like It Is this year has been great. I had Chris Doble on from VMSA, then I had Elio on from Borrow Do, really good things that are helping entrepreneurs and how they work as mentors and act about it. And now we are talking about mentoring again, but except this is a little bit different. It's for artists, and a lot of us love artists. We love music. We love everything. We love art, but we don't really know a whole lot about the business side of it. So how did you come up with a mentoring platform for artists?
That's a great question, Jade. Do you have a minute for a quick story?
Yes.
Because it's a story that brought me here to today. Like you mentioned, I started my career in the energy industry as an oil and gas engineer, project manager. I also had a side hobby. A number of years back, decided I would try out the sport of strongman. You know, the guys that flip big tires and pull trucks and stuff. After years and years of a solo weightlifter, I decided on a whim I was going to try out the strongman thing, and so I joined the strongman group. And for the first time in my lifting career, I had a community of peers, and I was getting feedback from experts. And what was a 20-year unsuccessful solo weightlifting career, in 2 years after joining strongman, I was titled Alberta's Strongest Man.
Ooh.
And then 2 years later, I was titled Western Canada's Strongest Man. So very unrelated to art, obviously. But this whole journey of strength training strongman had me realize how critical mentorship, how critical having a community of peers is to being really good at something, to succeeding at something. And so I took a look at my energy industry career, and I realized that my peers, that the younger version of myself would really have benefited in my leadership growth as an energy exec. So Leveling Up was actually started in the leadership space. We wanted to mentor and coach mid-career growing leaders on how to be better managers and be better leaders for their teams. And for about a year and a half, we grew in that space, and it was going really well as we figured out the platform, and we've always been virtual. We were Zoom before Zoom was cool. So we grew in that space, and then COVID hit. Yeah. And our customers, our leadership customers said, Mike, really thanks for the leadership training, but I'm going to put all this on hold. Basically, our entire customer base said we need to put this on hold because our leadership careers are very uncertain at this point, and I'm going to wait to see what life looks like. As an entrepreneur, we looked at that and said, well, we're not going to sort of lay down and die. We've built something that we know works. Our leadership customers have told us how much they loved it. So let's experiment. Let's test out some different market verticals. My wife, who is a professional gallery artist, who was LevellingUp, still is LevellingUp's chief messaging officer, she said, her art career really exploded when she got mentoring. Oh, well, let's introduce LevellingUp to artists and see what happens. And really, the rest of the story is history, because from there, it's just exploded. The art market has said, wow, where have you guys been? There's nothing like this out here for artists. Mentoring is absolutely essential for any artist to grow and advance their career. It's how that whole industry works, and there's really nothing out there. So we pivoted hard. We've sort of parked the leadership stuff, and we are now fully invested, fully serving the artist market. Long answer to your very short question. Did I answer your question, James?
Well, absolutely. And I think, we've talked about mentoring so much in the past, and I believe in it so much. And I'm sure you'll hear me say it, like my mentor I still have, he's turned into more of a friend. And really that's one of the reasons this show is called Telling It Like It Is, because it's important of a mentor is being honest and getting that feedback that you might not get from a family member who's going to be very encouraging and very supportive, which you need in your life. But mentoring is so much different. So I guess, how is mentoring, my business, and I get business advice and things like that. Is there any difference in mentoring an artist?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and I've done a lot of thinking about that. and the answer is yes and no. Mentoring is all about saying, hey, I've traveled this path, and I let me tell you about the path I traveled, and you can learn from my experiences, and all about passing that knowledge. So from that perspective, mentoring artists is no different. It's still about somebody who's already been there saying, here's what I did, let me show you, and I really hope that helps. The part where mentoring is actually really different for artists is artists as a stereotype, but I think it's for the most part true for the entire group of artists. They are very emotionally aware individuals. They are open and receptive to learning more about themselves, and to understanding what their barriers are. What we've found, and really the pivot from leadership to artists told us that artists, mentoring lands better with artists is maybe the biggest difference. Mentoring is very personal, and in this journey of growth is very personal, right? If I give you feedback, that's personal. Artists are wired to connect. That's the making of art is all about connection, right? I want to tell you something that's inside me. So artists are intrinsically wired to connect. So they wind up being very intrinsically able to receive mentorship, to learn. The mentorship, I believe, is not about learning sort of the broad strokes of a skill. That's pre-recorded courses or a book or something like that. Mentorship is about learning the nuances of a skill, and art is all about nuances. The difference between the early artist that's just learning their craft and the master artist who's been working for decades is the nuances of the brush strokes, say if we're talking about painting, or the nuances of how one touches the keys on a piano or the strings on a guitar. It's all about the nuances, and mentoring sits in those nuances and says, hey, I've learned these nuances, Jade. Can I tell you about the details? And it requires you to be receptive to hearing those and learning those. So have I answered your question? How is mentoring different for artists?
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I'm talking with Mike deBoer, the founder of Leveling Up. You can click on his website in the comments section. It'll take you directly there. And I think, we all love artists, right? Whether it be, music or painting or theater. I guess it doesn't, and we take for granted that it's actually a business too. And we don't think about, the business behind the artist. So, please share how leveling it up works.
Sure. So ultimately, like I said, mentoring is about saying, hey, I've traveled this path. Let me show you, let me teach you what I've learned, and let me watch you apply it. And then I'll give you feedback on the application. Effective mentoring is all about that feedback cycle to make sure that what I've told you lands well, and that you're doing it or something close to what I've asked. So with that in mind, the way Leveling Up is organized, so we're entirely virtual. We use Zoom as our face-to-face interaction platform. We connect artists in small groups. So 6 to 8 growing artists are collected together in a group, and they are mentored by the master artist of their choice. So you would, if you and I were to join Leveling Up, we would pick master artist Mark Hine. He's an amazing figurative artist out of Western Canada here. And so we would join his group. And once a month for 2 hours, us and a half dozen of our closest friends would meet with Mark live over Zoom. The end of each 2-hour session finishes with homework. Mark would say, okay, for the next month, Jade and Mike, you guys are going to work on some skill. And that skill all depends on what we've asked Mark to help us grow in. And so we collect the artists together that are trying to learn the same skill. So you and I are trying to learn how to be better figurative artists, how to make our people look more like people. So Mark would send us off for the month with some particular homework, and we would practice that homework. In that month, now here's the magic of Leveling Up. In that month where we're not in the interactive live session, we would connect with the half dozen people in our group over a discussion board. And we would work together. We would discuss how we're doing on our homework. What really happens in that month between the sessions is the growth of a community of artists, a new community of people struggling with the exact same challenges you're struggling with, trying to overcome, get to the same place you're trying to go. So you would have the chance to interact with these folks for that next month. We also have a community champion, a community curator. We call that person a navigator, who himself is an artist, who has facilitation skills, who helps ensure that community grows well during that month. Okay, so you and I have worked on our homework for this month. The next month, we get back together with Mark, and for the first hour of our 2-hour session, he gives us all feedback on how we did on the homework. He says, okay, Jade, you were working on noses this month. Let's look at your noses. Let's look at your shading. Let's look at your, and he would give you feedback, and you would learn what landed well and what you need to work on. and I would learn from your experience, and then he'd give me feedback on my work, and you'd learn from my experience. So for that first hour, the 2 hour, we're in this community learning, we're learning from each other, and we're hearing the feedback. The next hour, Mark gives us the next step on our journey. He says, okay, guys, what I heard from you is that everybody's struggling with, you know what, we're going to take a departure. Everybody was struggling last month with drawing faces. This month, everybody's struggling with how to have an effective social media strategy. And Mark would say, guys, here's what I've done for my social media. So let me teach you some of the business side. So he's able to speak to and respond to the actual needs of the group and connect wherever we are, whether it be technical art or business side of art, whatever the group needs to learn. At the end of that final 2 hour session, again, we're assigned homework, and the whole cycle repeats. Am I making sense so far?
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, it definitely makes sense. Everybody needs some sort of mentoring, and when the artist, it's because it is art, it is artistic. It's not so, no cut and dry, so to say. That I mean, it is interesting to hear how that works and how the conversations and how everybody can be actually helping each other and sharing their stories. And as you said, social media might be a conversation of 1 week or accounting or whatever it may be, to make sure that these people understand how they are be able to move their businesses forward as artists, which is a lot different than just saying, I got something that, something I need to sell. But it is the same, but it's also a little different mentality for the artists. I mean, the artists that I know, they never think about business first. They always think about their art first and their music and their passion before they're like, we'll figure the rest out later. That'll just come.
The reality is, like, there are tremendous number of talented artists out there. Yeah. But making that, and for the artist who just wants to paint or play guitar for themselves, that's enough. But for the artist who wants to, say, make a career to be commercially successful, then there's a journey that you have to go on, and it's not an easy one. It's not a well-defined one. There's nobody who's going to sort of hire you and promote you like in corporate North America, where you get hired I got hired as a project manager and I got promoted, and there was a career path. For artists, that career path is not obvious. And so having that mentorship of somebody who's traveled it before, even if you're not going to travel that exact same path, is so essential to learn how others have done it. One thought that comes to mind, artists are such a wonderful group to work with, because of that desire to connect, that desire to grow. However, at the same time, and we struggle with this in whether it be corporate world or art world, at the same time, artists struggle with something called imposter syndrome. The idea that I'm a fraud, and it's only a matter of time before everybody figures that out, and so I'm gonna sort of hide my insecurities and hide the things that I'm not good at, or I think I'm not good at, and just sort of hope for the best. What's really interesting is in the context of these interactive small communities, where artists very quickly realize that the things that I struggle with, and I'm ashamed to admit, I'm afraid to admit, I'm afraid to say out loud that I think my art, isn't awesome. When artists start admitting these things to each other, and they realize, well, wait a sec, every artist thinks that, and we all have to overcome these insecurities or these barriers to progressing. When those barriers are made apparent, are shared in these safe, closed, small groups, all of a sudden we can get past them, and we can say, okay, I thought my art wasn't good, and when I shared that, I got the honest feedback that it is good, and that I'm learning, and that I'm growing. It's in that context that I can really now explode and move forward as an artist, as somebody who has the potential to be commercially successful.
That's interesting. Again, I'm talking with Mike deBoer, the founder of Leveling Up. You can click on his website in the comment section. It'll take you directly there. I think he brought up something interesting, especially you touched on it a little bit before, but even on that answer, and maybe because it's a timing that for Leveling Up and the lockdown and COVID and people questioning and whether they're scared or I don't know. I think there's so much we're going to find out about COVID, not only from the next, the past 9 months, but probably the next 2 years. So I guess when these lockdown ends, I don't think the need for leveling up will end, but I think there'll probably need more of leveling up for people out there.
I totally agree with you, Jade, that the end of lockdown is not the end of leveling up at all. In fact, I think that's when things will really open up for us. Artists are by their nature solo, even though I talk about them wanting to connect. When they're painting, they're sitting alone in their studio, and COVID actually just exacerbated that problem. It made it even harder to get out and connect. What's really fantastic about COVID is it's normalized what we're doing right now, this video conference, connecting face to face still, but through the video interface. So this is normal. This is and it's not going to become unnormal when COVID ends. What we are seeing right now is we have members of our platform from all corners of the globe. We have a lot across Canada and US. We have a number from the UK, one in Dubai, a number from Australia, and that video conference opportunity to connect face to face across the globe was made obvious by COVID, but it doesn't go away when COVID ends. I think we've unlocked an opportunity that was never before possible. Never before was this face-to-face via video across the globe. Really, maybe technically it was possible, but culturally it wasn't possible. Now face-to-face across the globe is culturally possible. So COVID, thank you. COVID has sucked in a lot of ways. I don't want to downplay that at all, but thanks to sort of the cultural revolution it's created, it's unlocked an opportunity where leveling up is possible in a way that it was never possible before.
Yeah, and I know what you mean by COVID, and I agree, right? I mean, there's been some businesses that have extremely suffered because of it and lost their businesses, and there have been some that have been able to thrive and really grow during this time. But when it comes to the help that we're going to need as a society, and especially on being able to get together like this, on the mental wellness side and things along those lines, I think the support that we're going to have to give to one another, and whether it be for artists who can't go out and play live venues before, or play in little bars, and even if it was a little a side thing that they love but passionate their whole lives, they're going to need some other people to talk to and someone to be there for them, and services like yourself are going to be necessary for people to make sure that they're able to be there for each other, and they have someone to lean on, and they're not suffering in silence if they are suffering. And I mean, that goes beyond the artist world, obviously, but I think it's very important where people start thinking about all aspects of society, not just the business side of it.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
No. So I guess, saying all that and moving forward, what's next for Leveling Up?
Yeah, wow, that is a good question. So as a startup, we have plans, but of course we follow our customers. Our customers teach us where to go.
Yeah.
What our plans are is for the next year and a half, we are going to help visual artists, emerging visual artists. By visual artists, I mean like painters, drawers, sculptors. We're going to grow in that market space and help connect masters from across the globe with emerging artists across the globe. Once we've really understood that space well, and we've grown to a real critical mass there. Ideally, let's say 10,000 members in a year and a half. Aggressive, big picture. At that point, what we would really love to do is to go to what are called a couple of referral markets, some other artist or creative markets. Like the two that come to mind first are novelists, writers, where again creatives that are growing in their craft they're already telling us they want to be mentored by experts in that field. So we would grow into, say, novelists, and maybe we would start exploring the world of music and looking at musicians or vocalists. And so over at that point, every year or so, we would tap into several additional referral markets with the idea of growing, Leveling Up, say in 5 years to helping and support 1 million creatives across the globe. We'd love to change the opportunity, change the world for these creatives, giving them opportunity to have the success, however they want to define that, the way that they want. So yeah, that's the big picture, big, crazy, audacious vision. I'd love to return to the world of leadership at some point too. What we learned is that's an incredibly saturated market. Our artist market is really underserved. Everybody thinks artists are starving artists. What we're learning is with the right motivation, the right opportunity, they will invest their money and their time. We do group cost sharing, so it is really affordable. Artist market, not saturated. Leadership market is at an appropriate size and market presence for Leveling Up. Really want to see if we can come back to the leadership market because our approach is really unique and is not duplicated there. And I believe we can change the opportunity and really change that whole market as well.
No, I mean, and that makes sense, right? I think we kind of talked about that this entire time about how this market is just, well, no one really thinks about it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just everyone just what you said, right? Well, they got no money, so I'm not going there. So if I can't make money, I don't really care. But I mean, it's good for people like yourself and your wife to kind of sit there and go, man, you know what? There is something here. We can help these people and we can help these artists. And as we grow, we're going to expand into novelists, maybe into musicians, into whatever it may be, and be there. And I think you're already giving that leadership. You say you might not get there, but I think, deep down, mentorship is also leadership. So you're teaching these people how to become leaders and maybe how to help somebody else that maybe can't come or doesn't want to, join a group or something, but they can have that one-off. And yeah, you know what? I'll help you. I'll be your mentor. And before you know it, you're inspiring other people to share their knowledge down the road and whatever that may be. And that's part of leadership. So I think you're already doing it. You just maybe don't realize it.
That's great.
But it's sad when a lot of these great discussions have to come to an end. But I do have one last question for you, Mike, and it's one that I ask, and because I think it's important. If you had one piece of advice for a small business, a startup, or an entrepreneur, what would that be?
That is it's a really interesting question. I've been on this entrepreneurial journey myself for a couple of years, and the advice I got early on, the same advice given to me now, much further down my entrepreneurial journey, would land very different with me now than it did then. So my advice, and I sound like I'm pitching, my advice is to succeed as an entrepreneur. Artists are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur as starting up a new business. To succeed as an entrepreneur, mentorship is absolutely essential. There is no successful entrepreneur out there, and I challenge whoever's listening to this to prove me wrong. Please do. But I believe there's no successful entrepreneur out there who hasn't been given a leg up by someone, who can't say, I got mentored by somebody. So my advice to the growing entrepreneur, my advice to the younger version of myself starting this journey would have been, get yourself a mentor, many mentors, and cling on to them and learn from them and be humble and realize that what they're telling you is going to make sense eventually, even if you don't believe it or don't agree with it or understand it right now. Get a mentor, and at the same time, again, I sound like I'm pitching, find a community of people who are at the same place as you, who are struggling with those challenges, who you can support each other, you can vent, you can be open and honest with each other, who maybe have ideas to share or mentors to share. Find a community of peers. Mentorship is where it's at. That is the guaranteed recipe for success.
Yeah, and Deborah thinks so too, right? And as do I. So I truly believe in mentorship, and it doesn't matter where you are in your career. It doesn't matter if you're being inaugurated today as the president of the United States. He's had mentors along the way, and so has everybody. And I do like that challenge, and I'm probably going to post it in the thing. Prove us wrong. I want somebody to say, I did this all on my own with no help, with no advice from anybody. I don't think anybody can prove us wrong, but I am going to put that in the post. On the Friday advice, I'm putting that in the post, Mike.
Let's find that self-made man, that self-made woman that nobody gave any support to. That would be really interesting. I'd love to hear about that journey. That would be fantastic. But if we find it, that's going to be the edge case. And good for that person if we find them that they found their own way, made their own way. For the majority of us, I don't think that's gonna get us to success within one lifetime.
I couldn't agree more. And again, Mike, I thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your story, sharing your knowledge. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all you do for all the artists out there and trying to give them and trying to make them better and give them what they need to become successful, because that's what we're all about. We're all about helping people. And that's, again, why this is here for if it helps one person and one person sees it, I'm happy for that. So thank you for sharing your knowledge today and everything that you do.
Thanks, Jay.
And for everybody else, I hope you have a good week, and thanks for watching, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.